Which one will triumph when customs meet morality? Kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Once upon a time, in a beautiful forest, where the water falls gracefully from the top of a mountain, and birds of different species sang harmoniously, lay a village called Enijikro. The village was renowned for its rich culture and hospitality. The people of Enijikro were known to be custodians of ancient traditions and beliefs, passing them from generations to generation. For them, every event that happens was attributed to the supernatural. To assiduously preserve their customs, formal education, healthcare, and other infrastructure were rejected, compelling villagers to trek miles to access these services. For the past decade, the village has been executing old women accused of witchcraft. Under a grand mahogany tree, the village square buzzed with tension as the murmurs of the gathered crowd increased. At the center stood a radiant queen with a commanding presence, and beside her, a formidable priestess draped in ceremonial apparel. On the ground before them, a battered and feeble woman sat. The priestess pointed a finger at the old woman, granting her a chance to speak her final words. With an agonizing and defiant voice, the old woman cursed the king's wife, saying, "It is only the young that everybody has been, but not the old. You will live long and grow old with gray hair, and your children will accuse you of witchcraft." She then turned to the priestess and said to her, "I took care of you like my own child. I even abandoned needs of my children just to take care of you. And now, you stand here accusing me of witchcraft. You will not have the privilege to bear a child that will even accuse you of being a witch." Unbothered by the woman's words, the priestess ordered her execution. Nyanta, the king's wife, for her, this act was in support of her friend. She was once a poor orphan who was disregarded by everybody and deemed unfit to marry a king, till she met Nana Obua the priestess, who told her the gods had chosen her to be the king's wife. She maneuvered and ensured that she became the king's wife. Nana Obua the priestess was powerful and renowned. She was born extraordinarily, with feet first. As a child, she could foretell the future. As time passed, she was recognized as a potent soothsayer and a crucial mediator between the gods and the people. The people trusted her. They took her words as a direct instruction from the gods. So, when she told Nyanta one day that the gods had chosen them to peg the village of witches, she was honored to support a friend and be part of the divine will. Nyanta was known as the king's heart. Whatever she requested was granted with immediate effect. One day after dinner, she pretended to be unhappy. The king, bothered to see her that way, asked what he could do to elevate her mood. She held his hand and made him swear an oath that whatever she asked, he would do. The king, hell-bent on making her happy, took the oath. Then she requested for sole power to rid the village of its witches. The king, bounded by an oath and love, yielded to her demand. From that day onwards, she and Nana Obua have been persecuting old women suspected of witchcraft. But Nana Obua had an ulterior motive. For her, It was a vindication for her mother. Growing up, she always saw how her old grandmother insulted and maltreated her mother. She even prevented her from seeing her, all because she was the only woman in the village who seemed unhappy even weeks after giving birth. On her mother's deathbed, she told her to beware of old women. From that day onwards, she has harbored hate for old women. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some felt relieved another witch was purged from their midst, while others feared the priestess was now unstoppable, since the woman she executed was her nanny. Peeping in the crowd was a little girl named Akua Santua, who watched critically as her young mind grappled with the brutal spectacle. Akua was a very sweet, kind, and intelligent girl. She was also curious and a seeker of understanding. She was an orphan who lived with her grandmother, whom she loved dearly. She would often ask her questions that made her wonder where her wisdom comes from. While standing in the crowd, her grandmother suddenly pulled her. Embracing her, she told her not to ever sneak out to witness the brutality. On their way home, Akua tried to ask questions about what happened, but her grandmother disregarded her questions. Years passed. Akua is now a teenager. In school, she was very bright and disciplined. That earned her admiration from many people, including her class teacher, Miss Adair. Even though the years have passed, she could not shake the memory of that day from her head. Witch hunts was still rampant in the village. She one day decided to uncover the truth. One fateful day, Akua saw two palace guards dragging an old woman away. Quietly, she followed them to a secluded spot where she witnessed the woman being beaten and caged. Horrified, Akua tried to leave, but was caught by a young man named Nanajima, the crown prince. He threatened to call the guards on her. She pleaded with him, explaining her intentions. From that day, they became secret friends, meeting by the riverside to converse. Nanajima, abreast of what goes on in the palace, enlightened Akua about the witchcraft accusation process. First, a family tragedy must occur, followed by divination from the priestess, leading to an arrest, trial, and judgment on the 14th day. After the judgment, the family received 5 pieces of gold. They both registered their displeasure and questioned why only the poor and old women were accused by their families and never the rich or royals. They also questioned why any old woman who was sent for divination was always guilty. One evening, Akua returned from her meeting with Nanajima. She overheard her uncle shouting at her grandmother and blaming her for how her cocoa farm suddenly caught fire and how her auntie's husband died mysteriously. He angrily walked past Akua without noticing her. Akua quickly rushed inside and found her grandmother crying. When she saw Akua, she immediately wiped her tears. She brought out an Owari game for them to play, feigning a smile. But Akua sensed something was deeply wrong. Days later, as Akua was sweeping and her grandmother was cooking, 2 palace guards arrived, with orders to take her grandmother for witchcraft divination. Despite Akua's resistance, they dragged the old woman away. Her grandmother, with a calm demeanor, assured her that she would be fine. Akua knew she had to do something to save her grandmother. Determined to save her, she confided in Miss Adair about everything going on in their village. Appalled by the information, Miss Adair agreed to help her rescue her grandmother. So she, Nanajiman, and Miss Adair met secretly to devise a plan to rescue her. Their only challenge was how to get her grandmother out of the cage without the notice of all the guards around. Her grandmother was kept in a heavily guarded cell, sharing it with another old woman. Despite their dire situation, thoughts of Akua brought a spark to her eyes. She would often talk about Akua to her cellmate, who admired the young girl's immense love for her grandmother and wished she was as lucky as her. She vowed to herself to help her escape. One night, Akua secretly visited her grandmother to tell her of their plans so far. Her cellmate volunteered to help her out of the cage. She instructed her to gather some specific herbs. 3 days later, the old woman concocted a potion and gave it to Akua's grandmother. She drank it, causing her to collapse and appear lifeless. She then shouted for help. The guards entered. Seeing her lifeless body, they checked her pulse and felt none. The guards, believing she was dead, brought a coffin, placed her in the coffin to be taken to the evil forest, as custom demanded. As the coffin was being carried away by 4 guards, 2 of the guards were summoned for reassignment of duty and replaced by another 2. Reaching the ends of the village, the guards diverted the coffin into the neighboring village. They helped Akua's semi-conscious grandmother out. They helped her climb into a waiting cocoa truck. Holding a small bundle of clothes was Akua, who also climbed the truck. Miss Adair handed to Akua a paper with information about the NGO that will shelter them. Nanajiman then removed a bead bracelet from his wrist, giving it to Akua as a promise that the traditions would change when he becomes king. He also vowed to do anything in his power to help old women accused of witchcraft escape. As the truck set off, they bid each other farewell, hoping for a brighter future.